Talk a little bit about plant breeding and the different types. So the first type that everybody probably thinks of when you're thinking of plant breeding is basically taking one plant and then crossing it to another plant and trying to get in between those two plants. And that's, just typical breeding. It gets a lot more in depth, but that's basically what people think of when you tell them you're going to be breeding plants. Well, for years, I was breeding plants and didn't even realize that I was breeding them because I wasn't doing what you're thinking, like crossing one plant to another plant, trying to create something in between. What I was doing was I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, right? And I love tomatoes. So I would grow my tomato plants, but once it hit 100 degrees, they would die off no matter what. Like I'd have them huge, shaded, everything, and they would die off. So one day I was at the hydroponics store buying more seeds, and I explained, I wish these plants would like last through the summer. And he was like, well, they were grown in like Missouri or something, so their hottest temperature is like 90s. And I was like, yeah, so? And he's like, well, the plants aren't acclimated to our temperature. So I was like blown away with just that because I was just, growing. I didn't have any thought of temperature or, acclimation or anything. But when I got home, I started sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder if I could do something about that. So I started taking my favorite plants and stressing them out. And when I say stressing them out, I'd let them sit in 100-degree weather, and right before they were gonna die, I'd go water them and I'd keep them alive. And after they would finish up, I'd probably get 100 degrees, 102 degrees the next year. But after they would finish up, I'd take the seeds out, and those seeds would acclimate to the temperature just a little tiny bit. And that was enough that the next year I'd get maybe 101 degrees. And so I did this over 10 years, and over those 10 years growing the exact same plants over and over, they were, I guess you would say F9s or S9s, I guess, because they were pollinating themselves. So I guess they would be self-pollinated, so they'd be S9s. But at that point, the tomato plants were now being able to take 110 degrees, maybe even 115 on a good day. And I would just water them, and I wouldn't stress them after that point because they had already been through the acclimation process. So that was actually my introduction to actually breeding. And so now I'm doing the spicy bell pepper project, which is like regular breeding basically, of taking a bell pepper and crossing it to a habanero and trying to make a spicy bell pepper. But originally I was breeding without even knowing. So I guess I just wanted to make this video to say sometimes you get into things and you don't even realize you're doing what you thought that you couldn't do.